Delighted to see people joining. We have about a half a minute and we'll go ahead and get going. Got a busy hour in front of us. I think it's going to be a fun hour. I'm excited to be able to be presenting part 3 today. I hope you found the other 2 parts useful. And as you join, again, just please remember to put yourselves on mute. A couple other little housekeeping things I want to share with you as we begin. We will be sending to our organizer all 3 sessions recorded. We will also be sending the presentations. I'm sure that Sonia will have a way to get those distributed to you. So you will have this information into perpetuity going forward. So again, we're on session 3 of Living with Compassion. And I am Marcia Morgan, and I am just delighted that you are here today. What we're going to do is we're going to really do a deeper dive.
The only reason.
Again, we're going to do a deeper dive into resilience and the practices and sharing some coping strategies that hopefully you will be able to use every day, throughout the day, and that you'll be able to share with others. So the work that we do today should be longer term. But first, let's do a centering exercise. And again, I can't see most of you. You're on, I guess that would be stopping video. You're on video mute. How about that? Video mute. But if you would, please move yourselves away from your desk if you're sitting at a desk. And if you're driving, you may not be able exactly to do this exercise, but do the best you can. But don't put yourself in any jeopardy. So what I'd like for you to do is stand up, and we're going to just do a little bit of stretching, nothing that is going to tax any major part of your body, but we are going to just do a little stretching. So first, if you would, just hands, palms pressed together in front of your chest. And then we're just going to go down and a big circle. So we're going to bring the sky into our being, right? So as we bring our arms around, big circle, bringing the sky and into our center. We'll do this just a couple more times, slowly. Big circle, arms around, palms together, hands to the chest. Breathing in, and then as we bring our arms down, we're breathing out. One more time. So arms around and then down. All right. Next, we're going to bring our hands in, and then we're going to gather our earth around us, right? So our arms to our sides, arms reaching out in front, and then bringing to our chest. Arms around. One more time. And then our next little quick exercise, I call painting the walls. So it's hands up, extending, and then bringing down slowly, and then up, and then down. Breathing in, and then breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. And then finally, we're going to connect heaven and earth. So right hand raised, left hand extended down, and then changing positions. So we're connecting. So it's bringing hands together and then stretching. So together, left hand stretches, stretching. And we'll do this one more full time. So right hand stretching to the sky, left hand stretching to the earth, and then we're going to change positions. Left hand stretching to the sky, right hand stretching to the earth, and then bringing to the center, and then we'll just shake it all out. So again, a very quick centering exercise that you can do really at any point in the day, right? Again, remembering that we do our best when we are in the executive functioning part of our brain, and breathing and centering helps put us there. All right. So we'll move on. And part of what we're going to do initially here is really to think about, okay, how do we give ourselves some compassion? What brings compassion to us? And I really just love this quote that says, when you begin to touch your heart or let your heart be touched, you begin to discover that it's bottomless, that it doesn't have any resolution, that this heart is huge, vast, and limitless. We can begin to discover how much warmth and gentleness is there, as well as how much space. And this is important for us to recognize this as we engage in self-talk. And we have self-talk all the time, right? And our self-talk comes from the levels of attachment that we've experienced from early childhood all the way through adolescence and into adulthood. And from this attachment, from what we've been told about ourselves, is really the beginning of our self-talk. And we make judgments all the time about what we say and do. And we can actively comfort ourselves. I was in a conversation this morning, and one of my dear friends and colleagues said, I was coming to work every day and I was telling myself how exhausted I was, how burned out I was. And I made a conscious decision about a month ago to reframe that and to begin the self-talk of, yes, I'm challenged, I'm capable, I can do this work, I find this work energizing. And she was able to say, this is making a difference for how I see this work and how I'm doing this work. So we can find that we can actively comfort ourselves as we are expecting to comfort others. So there's some real benefit, a biological benefit to how we are talking to ourselves. And it's actually the benefit of oxytocin, which many of you already know is a hormone that releases warmth, caring, compassion. It's frequently called the hug hormone, the love hormone. The other piece, though, is have the recognition that when we are in positive self-talk, we also are engaging the executive functioning part of our brain. We're starting, and that's not to minimize our challenges. It's not to minimize things that we might be distressed about. It's just an opportunity to keep us in the thinking part of our brain, where we can do some problem solving, where we can be perseverant. And we're going to talk about how important that is in just a few minutes. So I want to share with you some really positive self-care practices. We've talked a lot of theory over the last couple presentations, and really want to leave you today with some practices. So here's the situation. Think about a time when you were feeling bad about something that you said or something that you did. And then what was the negative script that was rolling around in your head? Perhaps it was that you were saying to yourself, I can never do anything right. Why do I let this guy always, or gal, always trigger me? Why do I let this person get under my skin so much? So you're having, and this is a common situation that we've all, I think, have experienced. I don't believe that I'm the only one. Let me just say that. So what can I do when I'm feeling bad about having said something, or or having done something that is less than what I would expect of myself? Well, one self-practice that you might try, we're calling the hug. And so just for a second, give yourself a little hug, or if you're not comfortable giving yourself a little hug, just give yourself a squeeze, a little hand clasp. Or remember that rhythmic, repetitive motion is it's an awesome calming practice, right? So, oh yes, absolutely. Weighted blankets is another way to give yourself a hug, right? And boy, there's all kinds of neat weighted blankets now being advertised. They've come into the mainstream, which is really exciting. When we first started using weighted blankets some years ago, it was therapeutic interventions only, and now it's like you can buy a weighted blanket in the market. So another self-care practice that you might use is what we're calling the Aok Conversation, right? And this is the opportunity to recognize that and just to say, this was a really tough situation. And there were lots of things going on. And in that moment, I really did the very best I could do, right? May not have been perfect. It may not have been how I would have handled it another time. But in that moment, with all that was going on, with how I was feeling, I did the best. And you might want to add, and the next time I can do better. So again, and we talked about, if you remember back in part 1, we talked about compassion satisfaction, and how compassion satisfaction is really related to how we view the work that we've done and that we detach from the outcomes, right? The other thing in our AOK positive self-care practice is to recognize that it's the majority of the time, it's possible to repair a relationship. So if I've said something off, or if I can go back and I can apologize, or I can let people know that I still am invested, I still care, and I made a mistake, right? So our third positive self-care practice is really, again, thinking about and checking in with ourselves. So again, it's recognizing what's going on in our bodies, and then really thinking about what it is that the next steps are. So the questions that I might ask myself is, what am I observing here? You know, am I picking up? I had a colleague yesterday who is doing work in a facility, and the facility is really, really chaotic. And she said, I can go in and I am centered and I am grounded. And within 10 to 15 minutes of being in this environment, I'm beginning to feel frantic and nervous and anxious. She's observing what it is that's going on around her. And then she's also then recognizing how that's impacting how she feels. And as we were talking this through, it was like, so what is it that you need, right? When you're in this situation, what is it that you need right now? And then can you request from the director of the facility that she give you some routine space, that she get you connected with the technology, all of those things. So again, checking in with what it is that's going on is a way to take care of yourself, right? So those are three self-care, self-talk kinds of practices that you might want to try. So let's go to another big practice, right? Which is mindfulness. So when we're talking about mindfulness, what we're really talking about being in the moment, right? Seeing and accepting what's occurring in the present moment, and knowing that what's buried is going to show up, right? And knowing that we really can't do anything about the past, and we can only influence the future by being here and now in the present. So remembering that being mindful, staying present in the moment is absolutely a compassion practice, right? So here's our situation. So think about an opportunity that you may have coming up where you can be aware and focus just on what you see, what you hear, and what you're feeling, just to observe it. Observe the feeling without the accompanying self-talk or without the story, right? So one of the challenges, again, that you may have, that we all may have, is we do a lot of work listening with people every day. So we're listening, we believe, I think, that we're present in the moment in our work. And I have at least observed for myself that it's really harder to stay present in the moment with my family after work. I kind of go, okay, I've done all of this today and I've been present. And now, now it's time for me to be at home. And I find myself needing my husband sometimes to repeat what he said because I haven't been present. I haven't been paying attention. So again, what do I do about that? Well, one thing that I can do is I can really, when I find myself not being present, is I can really start thinking about, okay, what is it that's going on in my body? What's happening to me, right? And I can also, again, without story, again, we're going to try to do this without story. I can just practice breathing, and then I can refocus on what he is saying, what it is that is going on in the moment, in the space that I'm in, so that I can be responsive and so that I can be a contributor. I can be a real partner as opposed to a couch potato, for example. So again, another way is also to label the feelings, right? And to label, not to pass judgment, not to tell story, just to label our feelings on what it is that is happening before we respond. And then remembering to respond with compassion. And our third practice for mindfulness is really finding a place and making space where you can practice being fully present, right? So again, being present isn't always easy. And you will find that as you practice, even for a few minutes, my suggestion is you practice it where it's easiest first, and then you go to the more difficult times in your day when it's harder to be present. But develop the muscle, develop the skill in being present. So I want to just pause real quickly here and see if anybody has any additional practices, any things that work for them. And again, feel free to unmute yourself and to share or to put something in chat. Either way, just want to give you a minute or two before we get into resilience. What is it that you do in self-talk? What is it that you found helpful? The CALM app, absolutely. And it's a great one. Nice deep breaths. I don't know if you've noticed, focus with my feet on the floor. Yeah, some grounding exercises, right? Where am I? Where am I? What is my space? I've noticed that the CALM app is actually offering commercials to say, do nothing for 15 seconds. And they usually have a beautiful landscape in the background and then a little dial that goes around. So another great self-talk, I get to instead of I have to. Listening to the ocean waves, saying a mantra. Absolutely. I wonder if you might share, Kelton, what your mantra is. My mantra used to be, and I know it's a little bit odd to say it this way, but my mantra used to be, would as I was thinking, oh, this is like really important. This is like, the most important thing, I would say, would this really be that important in the Ice Age? So some other suggestions: laying under hot towels, singing with the radio, listening to calming sounds like waves or birds, singing with the radio on drive home. There you go. So again, in our collective wisdom, we have a lot of ideas for mindful practices and for self-care. So let's talk now about building resilience. And first, I want to really offer a couple definitions that I think scaffold on each other. So the first definition that I want to offer to you is the National Resilience Institute, which shared with us this definition, that resilience is the capacity to prepare for, cope with, and grow through adversity. So our tools in self-talk, our mindful practices, our practices in doing exercises, our sleep habits, those are all things that can prepare us for adversity, right? Eating healthy, having support and good relationships can prepare us for adversity. The coping with comes with the recognition that we are all going to face some level of adversity in our life. None of us are going to get by without adversity, whether it's a medical challenge, whether it's a relationship challenge, whether it's a financial challenge, we're going to have adversity. And so then resilience is coping with what it is that's happening and reaching out and getting those supports and drawing on the internal resources that we have. And then the opportunity is, once we're through this adversity, we learn what we need to do differently, or what cause we can take up. So many times you will hear about parents who have lost their children due to violence. They become active in writing legislation. They become active. We have, again, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers who grew through the adversity, right? They coped with it, and then they grew to make change in their world. So that is a piece of resilience. The other piece of resilience that I want to offer is that, and it's like in this quote, he says it's the fuel that drives resilience, and that is hope. And we know from the research that Viktor Frankl did back in when he was in a concentration camp, that what he saw was that hope was the key to life. And so I believe, and I offer you this piece of a resilience definition, that hope is absolutely critical to resilience. So we have hope, and then we have the capacity to prepare for, cope with, and grow through adversity. So how do we do that? What does all that mean? Well, Dr. Gail Wagnall, who's a psychologist, presented to us 5 essential elements for resilience. And we're going to go through these in some detail. So we have purpose, we have perseverance, we have equanimity, self-reliance, and authenticity. So let's start with purpose. And again, I just offer this quote because it resonated with me. And so I want to share it with you, is that the purpose of life is not to be happy. It's to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. Now, Simon Sinek says, our visions are the world that we imagine, the tangible results of what the world would look like if we spent every day in pursuit of our why. So you have some authors from hundreds of years ago, and authors are current researchers, our current thought leaders, saying purpose is absolutely critical. So again, this is more rhetorical, and I'm inviting you to think about just a moment of reflection of, what is your why? What is your why? Why do you do every day what you do? And what is your vision? What is the vision that you hold? Why do you get up every day? For some of us, might be, I want to be the best mother. I want to be the best wife. I want to be the best husband, father, son. That's my why. And I want people to be proud of me. That could be a why. I will share that my why is fairly simple, fairly straightforward. I just want the world to be better than it was when I got here. And I want to be a part of making that world better. To help and support others. It's an awesome why. Thank you for sharing. Again, what is your why? To inspire hope. Here we go. Absolutely. Absolutely. So being clear about your why will help guide you and will help you, again, have hope, prepare for, cope with, and grow through adversity. That's the very first step, is knowing your why. The second essential element is this whole thing around perseverance, right? And I don't know about you, but I've started some things, and sometimes I've had this vision, and I thought I was clear in my why. And then I sort of went, maybe not so much, and I quit trying. So my perseverance meter wasn't exactly what I thought it might be. So I'll give you a quick example. Back when I was very young, one of the things I thought I wanted to do was to become a doctor, a medical doctor. And I didn't make it. As you might know, you can see that I'm kind of old, and I'm not an MD. I'm not a doctor. Here's maybe what I should have done if I would have actually, and maybe I did, okay, and I made a different choice. So my vision, if you will, my vision was to become a doctor. Then I took a look at the reality. And when I was young and young enough to have gone through medical school and still have been a decent age, the reality was that there was only, out of 100 folks selected for medical school, only one was a woman, right? So there was that reality. The other reality was that it was really, really expensive, and I didn't have the skills or the knowledge about how to get scholarships or money. The other reality was my grades weren't that good. And then there was a reality about going to school for all those years. So I made some choices, and my choices included, yes, I want a degree. Yes, I want an advanced degree. Yes, I want to continue learning, but not as a medical doctor, right? So you can have a why, and you can, when you look at reality, then you can also make some informed choices. So again, your person, And maybe if I backed up and I really thought about this some more, I could tell you that my vision really was I wanted to make some contribution to my community, contribution to people. And I found a different way. So I might have started out with one thing that kind of had to change. And then I was able to be very perseverant, right? I was able to do what I needed to do. So the vision, so as you think about this values, reality, and choice tool that comes from Team Tech, I want to acknowledge that Team Tech and everyone a leader is where this information is shared, is do we have a picture of what we want? Am I realistic? Do I know what the challenges or the blocks are? Right? Have I identified what it is that I'm going to need to do? And have maybe as important is, have I identified who can help me? And have I talked to those people so that I know that that they're on board and they're going to coach me, or they're going to guide me, or they're going to mentor me or tutor me? So really thinking that through. So again, I want to pause just for a second. What is your vision? And then think a little bit about what are your realities and what choices do you have to make? So maybe it's advanced education. Maybe it's preparing, for the most beautiful wedding, ever held, right? And then what are your realities? What are your choices? Maybe it's my vision is to have, a big family, or maybe my vision is to retire. What's my reality? And then what are my choices? That tool, I think, will support you in persevering and moving forward. Okay, so let's move on then to equanimity, which is the third element of resilience. The explanation on the left-hand side, equanimity is the ground for wisdom and freedom and the protector of compassion and love. So let me tell you where I got that. When I started reading about equanimity, I was like, I don't really know what that means. And so I did what everybody does today. I Googled it. And this was the explanation that came up. And it came up, and it was a reference from a Buddhist a Buddhist publication, right? And I thought, I like this definition. And I still don't think I know what it means, because I have that Western brain, right? So what I found then was the other definition, the more concrete definition, which is equanimity is to maintain mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, even in a difficult situation. Okay, so it is being able to handle difficult situations, right? To stay calm, in this discussion, to stay in the thinking part of our brain. So I kind of apologize for the for these graphics, but they're so cool. So in What Happened to You from Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey's book, he talks about when you're dysregulated, this is where you are. You're in this lower part of your brain. So if you can envision that this is the brain, this triangle is your brain, and this is the lower part of your brain, the limbic piece, and then the cortex. And this is how you're functioning, right? So you're not in the thinking part of your brain. You're in this, flight, fight, freeze response, which we talked about again in an earlier session. So we're really dysregulated. So that's not equanimity, right? However, we can change where we are in our brain So we move from dysregulation to being regulated, and we do that by first regulating ourselves, which is what we talked about for the first part of today, and we've talked about it in others. Then we can relate to others, we can relate to ourselves, and then we can reason. And so as we think about equanimity, we want to be up here, and we want to be able to relate and to regulate, and that helps us stay calm. So again, okay, Marcia, now you're kind of back up, in the knowledge section. How do we do that? We breathe, right? We walk away. We visualize being in the thinking part of our brain, and we work to let things go. I will tell you that for me, if I've been in a state of dysregulation, often I need physical activity before I can become calm. It's not easy or normal for me, if I've been really dysregulated, to just be able to sit down and think or to relate. I can't even talk to people when I've been that dysregulated. So again, remembering that there is a path, there is a process, and it always, always, always includes breathing, right? And it means really some of that very, very deep breathing. So again, if you want, I invite you, before we talk about self-reliance, I invite you just to take a nice deep breath. Really feel that diaphragm. And then just relax. Relax the shoulders, relax the tension. And just notice how that helps you recenter, how that helps you move from something that may be tense to something that's less tense. So our fourth stage of the essential elements of resilience is self-reliance. And I really just like this, this graphic. Some days you just have to walk yourself, right? So recognizing, how do we do that? What does that even mean sometimes? Well, I want to offer a concept that I was introduced to about 6 years ago now, and it's called strength scope, and our strengths, right? And in this whole idea of self-reliance, it's important to recognize that we have areas of competence. We have things that we've learned, we have skills, we have abilities, we have talents, right? We also have areas inside of us that are our intrinsic motivators. These are the things that maybe when I share with some, and I will in a minute, share what those are, you say, oh yeah, that describes me. And what's important to recognize in this whole idea around self-reliance is that when we combine the areas of our areas of competence with the things that are our intrinsic motivators, our intrinsic energizers, that's when we're at our best. That's when we love what we do, right? So what are those strengths? So in this model, which is a valid and reliable model that was developed in England a number of years ago, you will see that there are these strengths, and there are 24. There are emotional strengths, thinking strengths, relational strengths, and execution strengths. So as you quickly take a look at this list, you will see some that pop up for you that you go, oh yeah, that's me. And then you might take a look at one and say, that's not so much me. So I'll give you a really quick example. I love strategic planning. I love focusing on taking a strategic perspective on issues and challenges. I am not so strong on persuasiveness. Just if and I just feel I have my own biases. I'll own them, but that's not something, I may be competent in it, but it's not something that energizes me. So as you look at this list, and I want you to think about, okay, what are the things that light my fire? What are the things that if I could incorporate these intrinsic motivators in my day, every day, I would leave work really, really happy and really, really satisfied. Once you know what your strengths are, then you can continue to figure out ways to incorporate those into your work. So now we want to move to authenticity. And as we think about authenticity, what would a presentation be without a Brené Brown quote, right? So here we are. To be authentic, we must cultivate the courage to be imperfect and vulnerable. We have to believe that we are fundamentally worthy of love and acceptance just as we are. I've learned that there is no better way to invite more grace, gratitude, and joy into my life or our lives than by mindfully practicing authenticity. Okay, sounds pretty good, right? So how can we do that? How can we be our authentic selves? And so again, I want to offer another tool, and that is to think about affirmations. Because when you are affirming who you are and you are practicing who you are in the present tense from an affirmative perspective, then you are authentic, right? So as you think about writing an affirmation, it's more than just to put something up on the mirror to say, I'm a loving person, right? Yes, that's an affirmation. I just want you to take a deeper dive into this. I want the affirmation. I want you to think about, and I invite you to try an affirmation that is a stretch, a little bit of a stretch, because we all know we've got things to work on, right? And the affirmation is always personal. It's always positive. It's always in the present tense. It's always, it's about things that you want to achieve. You're not comparing yourself to the past or anyone else. You want to use both action words and emotion words. You want to be as specific as possible. And you want to make sure that it's balanced and realistic. And this last little tip, I think, is an interesting one, and one that when I wrote affirmations, I didn't think about this. It's about being confidential. So you know that you are working on these things, that these are things that will support you, that will help you be your authentic self. And it is yours to know, right? So again, just a really, really quick example is and this isn't one that I affirm that I eat healthy every day, or at least once a day, right? I'm going to eat at least one healthy meal a day, but I'm going to eat healthy every day because I enjoy how it makes me feel. So I've just broken the 11th, the confidential. I've just shared one, but I included an action word and an emotion word. I was specific. I was present tense. it was positive. So again, you can write many affirmations. You might want to start with 1 or 2 a day and think about where it is that you can become your authentic self. All right. So one of the things I want to share with you is really, again, we talked about coping with and growing from adversity. And sometimes when we're in situations, we may need to have a therapist, right? And we want to offer to you, and we want you to know that Johnson County has relationship with Resolve. And we're going to talk about Resolve in just a minute. So again, if you are a person who, believes that that you are having trouble coping, or that you want to, improve a relationship, improve how you respond, it's time. You may decide that you want a therapist, right? So here are just a few things to expect when you are working with a therapist, and what you should expect from a therapist. So you want to know that your therapist will honor their schedule, that they'll be clear on their own limits and their own boundaries. So again, if you believe that you are a trauma survivor, you want to have a therapist who really understands trauma, and who can work with you on those issues, and that they have training in that area. You want to be sure that there's compatibility, that there's a fit with you and your therapist, and that they are culturally sensitive and responsive, and that they'll work with you in a confidential way. Those are just some real basics. So here is a resource for you in Johnson County. Johnson County Mental Health has partnered with Resolve to provide you 3 therapy sessions with the clinician of your choice. Here's the information on being able to book online with Resolve. And again, you can see this information is anonymous. And again, all you need to do is to let people know that they are employed, that you are an employee of Johnson County Mental Health. So here are the counseling sessions that are available to you and to your family. And again, I'm going to go back to this slide so that you can copy the information down if you need it. If you book online at kcresolve.com, or you can call the number 913-735-0577 if you're interested in 3 therapy sessions. So again, know that there is a resource in your community that is available to you. And as we close session 3, I would like to invite you to a loving kindness meditation. So if you would, feet on the ground, hands in a relaxed position, eyes closed, our gaze fixed. And first we're going to just do 3 nice deep breaths. Now I invite you to see yourself in your mind. First, just visualize you. And once you have that picture of you, I invite you to say to you, may I be safe. May I be well. And may I be happy. And now if you would let that picture of you float away so that we can make space for another. And I want you to visualize a person you care deeply about and see that person in your mind. And may this person who I care deeply about be safe. May this person who I care deeply about be well. And may this person who I care deeply about be happy. And now let this person float away so that we can make space for another. So may this person that I know, with whom I'm acquainted, come into our minds. Could be a colleague, could be somebody you see at a store on a routine basis. But picture a person who you have familiarity with. May this person that I know be safe. May this person that I know be well. And may this person that I know be happy. And let this person float away. And now if you will bring into your mind someone with whom you are having difficulty, someone who is challenging you, and picture this person. May this person with whom I'm having difficulty be safe. May this person with whom I'm having difficulty be well. And may this person with whom I'm having difficulty be happy. And now let this person float away. And now, if you will, bring in your community. Bring in those you know, those you have contact with. Bring in your community. And picture your community. And may my community be safe. May my community be well. And may my community be happy. And now let your community float away. And take 3 nice deep breaths. And we'll open our eyes. All right. I want to thank you all for joining me for the last 3 weeks. And I hope that you have a little bit more knowledge and some insights, and that you can use the information that we shared with you today. and the last 2 weeks. So if you have any questions, please let me know. We will be happy to hear from you. Otherwise, this concludes our session today. Well, you're all very, very welcome. That's a great question, Mike. I don't know. Somebody would be able to tell you. About the availability of the other sessions, of the resolve sessions. Oops. There we go.